Hey everybody, welcome back to The Boy and the Beard, episode number 7.
7, baby.
Yep. Today we're excited to have Josh Coffy on the show. Josh hails from Ashland, Ohio, and he is the owner and founder of Flight Media and also Coffee Space, which is a networking space that he has downtown Ashland where his folks can come and work inside a cool working co-space and enjoy some of his coffee.
Yeah. Coffee's coffee.
Yeah.
How many
Yeah.
bad coffee jokes have you heard in your life?
I don't know, but I don't know how many bad coffee jokes I've heard. The only bad coffee that's a joke to me is when I see someone tell me that they drink a lot of coffee, and then I ask what they use, and they say a Keurig. That's the only
Ugh.
joke to me.
Yeah, so we'll use
man,
it. We don't
I'm
do the
joking.
overpour. We'll use it in the sense of it's easy. And I'll brew my coffee at night. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and it's fresh. And
I have a Keurig I use for
There
hot
you
water
go.
for tea sometimes, but we don't buy K cups. I think it's wasteful and it's also bad coffee.
Yeah.
Like it's bad tasting, but it's also
Yeah.
incredibly wasteful to use a little tiny plastic cup for every single 8-ounce cup of coffee you want to drink.
it's more for the convenience factor. I get it. You know what I mean? But the quality is definitely not there at all.
It makes sense in offices and whatnot, but
Yeah.
It's interesting. So I absolutely love coffee. Pour overs. I weigh the water. We get it to 205 degrees in a gooseneck kettle. The coffee grams is weighed out. The water grams are weighed out. It's ground to a certain fineness. There's a ratio of coffee to water. So super nerdy about it with the pour overs. But so when we started Coffee Space co-working, so our co-working space here, we have this building. And then across the street, we have a 4,000 square feet on the second floor over there with private offices and conference rooms and things like that. And when I was first deciding what to call the place, I wanted to have it coffee themed just because I'm a coffee, I love
Connoisseur.
coffee.
Right.
Yeah, I even have a commercial grade roaster that I import 65-pound bags of coffee from Brazil and Honduras, and it's called green coffee. And I have someone that roasts it, and it's a commercial grade, it's a huge setup deal with the stack and everything, and it takes 220 volt. And anyway, it's a drum roaster. And so I decided I wanted to do coffee themed. And then one day I was just sitting with Kelsey, and I was like, my wife, and I was like, Kelsey, I'm like, what if we just called it Coffee Space? It's pun on our last name. Everyone in our community knows us downtown, and it'll be coffee themed. It'll be a lot of fun. And then about every day, somebody walks in thinking we're a coffee shop, and I'm
got
like,
it.
well, maybe we're gonna regret that decision over the next 10 years when people are constantly walking into our reception asking if we sell coffee.
Yeah.
that's when you
on
start.
St. Patrick's.
That's when you put a booth in there where you actually do sell coffee, and just diversify.
Yeah. There's some wonderful coffee shops already around here in downtown and bakeries. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to compete with that.
That's tough. Yeah.
So
Just do referrals
Yeah.
and get a kickback from
Yeah.
those. I saw your Instagram this morning, and you love coffee.
oh, I do. I actually made a fresh Bolivian pour over about 10 minutes ago. So I'm
I was
fresh
gonna
and
ask
ready
if
to
you
roll.
did pour over, French press.
Oh. Yeah, French press was the intro, and then once you realize that you're sick of drinking sludge at the end of every cup, you move on to the pour over.
Is there that? So I enjoy coffee, but I'm more of more cream and sugar kind of a coffee guy. So it's not really coffee.
Yeah.
So
It's like a
Do you
coffee
drink
base.
Do you drink K cups too?
no. So what we just went to do, we
Okay, that's
grind
good.
our own. I do grind my own, and I
Okay.
can tell the difference from a ground coffee versus instant, or not even instant. Really, that's crap.
Pre-ground.
But for pre-ground, I can tell the difference. I don't have a refined palate, so I'll start with that. I'm not a foodie. I can eat Chef Boyardee pizza. I love spaghetti and meatballs out of a can. I'm that guy.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
Whereas Tony here
Yeah,
loves to cook and has that refined palate, so he's kind of more the foodie of the group.
absolutely. I like all food except for raw onion. Other than that, I'm just
I would
fine.
double down on that too.
Yeah.
Raw onion is pretty nasty in my opinion.
Yeah, it tastes like armpit. It smells like armpit too. If you like raw
Yeah.
onion, just get out of here. Tune out. No, I'm kidding.
So let's talk about you. And my first memory of engaging with you, let's say first was engaging with your company, Flight Media. I don't remember how you got on our radar, but I do remember following from the beginning, and then I guess learning you. I don't know if it was a tag from them with you or how that started, but then started following you and getting in. As I am 48 years old, so I'm on my second career in my life. The first was restaurant business for 23 years. And with that, I had up to 14 locations. So that's 14 managers, 30 assistant managers, and X amount of employees under my belt. And so I learned customer service from inside and outside from that aspect. And we marketed, even though we were a franchise from a corporate store, we were local marketing, trying to get some local sales because we were a local business. We hired locally, and we just had a franchise fee. That's the only thing that made us corporate. So following,
Really? What? I'm curious what franchise you were.
so it was Sonic Drive-In.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's interesting.
It is.
I never would have thought that about
So
you.
I graduated in 91, moved to Texas in 91 for Sonic, worked with my uncle, had a couple franchises. Had the opportunity to come to Beaufort, South Carolina in 97. Moved here January 19th, my son's second birthday. We opened up May 8th of 97. It's funny how certain dates you remember. And got it up to 14 locations with X amount of employees. And it made me a better person from dealing with customers and dealing with employees, but it's still definitely a frustrating time dealing with those types of deals.
Yeah, customer service is great. There's definitely a lot of heartache involved in customer service, though. Something that not a lot of people know is that In-N-Out Burger is not actually a franchise. It's owned by one person, one individual, who's the great niece, I believe, of the original owner who opened it in 1948. She's the youngest female billionaire on Earth. So she
That's crazy.
rolls around with bodyguards because there's been like 5 attempted kidnappings and ransoms. So
And she's young. How old are you?
28.
28.
She's like 38, 37.
Oh, she's that old? I thought she was younger than that.
She might be in her younger to mid 30s. Maybe it's the billions of dollars that make her seem older.
So you're 28. When did you start Flight Media?
So I actually started Flight Media back in, 21 years old, like basically as old as this kid here.
The boy.
The boy.
Tony, by the way.
The boy. Tony, the boy. So I started Flight Media, but before Flight Media, I actually started a company called Flight Drummers. So I am a musician to like my core. I love music. I love music theory. I do a lot of music now. It's just a hobby of mine. I'm a lead guitar player, but drums I absolutely love.
There you go.
And so I had this idea, and keep in mind, this is before courses were a thing and memberships were a huge thing. This was back in like 2011. So this is 10 years ago. I had this idea to create a subscription-based website where drummers could pay $20 a month and get access to online drumming lessons from all the artists that they love, and they can learn the techniques, and they can learn all kinds of really nerdy things.
Yeah, of course.
And so I started a company called Flight Drummers with a business partner of mine, and immediately that's where I started learning marketing. So we started it. We were in the dusty warehouse in this area of town. No one knew you would be in there unless they came and thought, in there. And so we're in this warehouse. We rented for a few $100. We put up we soundproofed the room put a glass window in to try to be cool, the studio feel.
Yeah.
And just a bunch of 19-year-olds, my friend and I, and we ended up starting Flight Drummers. Well, it took off. We had members in 22 countries.
Wow.
We broke 1 million YouTube views in the first year. So 1 million views. We had 50,000 subs in the first year.
Wow.
And we were growing by the hundreds a day on YouTube. We were gaining massive traction. We ended up doing this whole Flight Drummer Festival. We did down in Raleigh. We did drum clinics all over the East Coast, and it really started taking off.
Yeah.
And so that's where I learned marketing. I wasn't the talent. I was more like the marketer and the business guy behind it. And my partner at the time, we're still great friends to this day. He's an incredible drummer. So we ended up having Mariah Carey's drummer come to our studio, and he recorded stuff. And we had Jay-Z's drummer come in, all these people that were connected. They all know each other. We started doing drum lessons with them, and people bought it, and it was really, really cool. I decided that I was more passionate about marketing.
Yeah.
So we split off, and I started doing Flight Media, and he took Flight Drummers. And then a few months later, he decided it wasn't his thing, so he shut down the company.
Wow.
But since then I've been doing Flight Media, and
where does the
Flight
come from, and Flight Drummers and now Flight Media? Just cool name.
Yeah, so it was always a cheesy
soar,
to take flight. Yeah, I think for Flight Drummers, our tagline, as cheesy as it could be, was inspiration, education, drums. That was our one word period. One word period. One word period.
Yeah.
And we were doing that 10 years ago or so. And but Flight Media is where I absolutely loved it. And I started realizing that the internet would give me the ability. I live in a small town. We're like
Yep.
22,000 people in our town, and it would give me the ability to travel, to have flexibility of time. And I just love the psychology of marketing and selling.
course.
And so it just really suited what my goals were.
Yeah.
And so stars aligned, and 8 long years later, here
Yeah.
I am, you know?
So I'm a percussionist as well.
Okay.
I was in marching band. I started out in regular, obviously before high school, you're in regular band. So I played drums and stand-up snare and bass and xylophone and triangle and all that stuff. And then in high school,
Oh, man.
I was in marching band. I played the quads. And I play the drum set as well. So that's pretty cool that you do that as well.
I play the
we were
cymbal, and
the
that's about it.
symbol. There you go. You're the guy in marching where they're like, you know what? He doesn't have rhythm. He doesn't understand paradiddles. Just give him the cymbals, and you're just like,
Yeah.
at the end of the song.
Wait for
Yeah,
the cue.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's where my talents are best utilized musically. Just making one loud
Yeah.
noise right at the end.
Yeah, and actually, it was pretty cool, Sean. Just for nerdy self here, we were sponsored. Like the tour we did was sponsored by DW.
Wow.
We had Zildjian in. We had Vic Firth. So like all our symbols, DW and Sonar were our sponsors.
Wow.
So they would give us dollar amounts, and then we would get kits at every location that we ended up doing
Holy
drum
cow,
clinics
dude,
and stuff.
That's fantastic.
What's up with everyone
tell
coming
me-
on the
so-
podcast being mad sponsored by everybody?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We had
way back in the day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, back in 2011, you said that.
It was like the glory days of the internet. People still were kind of getting their footing. It wasn't as, I don't know, it's so streamlined now, and everybody's owned by like 2 people in terms of social media.
Very competitive for sure.
It
Very
is.
competitive.
So how well? I mean, Flight Media. You guys, you have clients all over the world, or are you strictly U.S. based?
We do. We have clients all over the world. Hopefully, none of them listen to this. We have some clients that are over in like Malaysia. We have some clients that are outside of the U.S. But our target market with what we do is in the United States. And actually, we're at full capacity, so like we're not taking on any more clients.
Right.
And so, and every client we're bringing on, we're picky about.
Of course.
And we only want to work with e-commerce in the United States. That's it. Preferably in East Coast time zone, so I don't have to mess with a lot of meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
Really late.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, 3 hours doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is, especially in the scope of like your work day for the average person.
7 o'clock
Yeah.
your time. It's 4 o'clock on the West Coast, and
Yeah.
it ties into dinner. And
Well, and the other challenging thing is, so our business partner Maya, her and her husband Mike, so they live in Montenegro in Podgorica. Amazing, it's beautiful there. And then we also have Marco in Podgorica, Montenegro as well, and we have an actual office there.
Nice.
And they're 6 hours in front of us. So that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
9-hour gap.
wow.
So all our client meetings need to be done by like typically noon every day.
Yeah.
And so since she's like our marketing director and she also oversees all our clients, it starts to get a little busy for her the first 4 hours of the East Coast time zone.
Yeah, for sure. I
So
can
we're-
imagine. Yeah, it's for me. Mondays are kind of slow from a. So I probably get like, this is me personally for our businesses. I probably get 60 emails a day,
Yeah.
roughly, and those aren't just those. That doesn't include the spam
No
emails.
receptionist.
No
directly.
receptionist directly to me, and I have to be that point of contact. So at some point, it's one of those at that growth stage to where. Do I spend the dollars now? But I know in 6 months to a year, I'm going to reap that benefit of having somebody in there. And I'm going to generate more revenue, and it's going to allow me to do more work. So it's just that tough challenge of that time. It was hard to bring Tony on, not to justify the cost for having him here because he's well worth the money. It's just changing my habits, So we do videography, we do photography, we have a sign shop.
Social media management.
Social media management, and so that's mostly my wife and I that handle that. But we've offloaded some accounts to Tony, and then we kind of run all the video stuff together. So it's it's definitely
Yeah, videos and signs are the two biggies from my involvement in SK. Videos are the funnest, obviously. I think, hands
you
down.
guys do wonderful sign work. And I told my wife Kelsey after Sean, you sent over some examples you guys had done, and I was like, I would totally have you guys come here to do the signs.
Yeah, I told my
Pay
wife
for the flights,
Do brick
just
wrap
for the
back
sake of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I gave my wife a heads up. We may be going to Ashland to do some vinyl. So if you
Yeah,
guys
it
are
would be
serious about
sweet.
it, I mean, we would love to do
How
it.
far away is that drive-wise?
I think I looked it up. Actually,
Maybe
so
12 hours.
we're
It's
driving
gotta
to
be-
Chicago sometime this year, and we're gonna make a trip. So sometime later this year, we may be making a trip through Ashland to see you guys. We've already
Well, we'll
kinda
we'll
looked at.
coordinate then. Maybe we'll do the vinyl then if you're going to be up here. We
Yeah.
could talk. We could
Yeah, yeah,
talk
we can
shop
talk.
later,
Yeah.
but like for sure,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, we
I
would
think
love to
that'd be
do that.
sweet. This
Um,
brick right here could use some nice like white, like a cool
oh,
vinyl
yeah,
piece on it. Would
yeah.
Oh,
be
yeah.
epic.
Yeah, no, it'd be perfect,
Brick
especially when
wraps
you
are
walk in.
awesome.
Yeah, that's the oversized vinyl is probably my favorite from an install standpoint. It's a pain in the butt from a time consumption, but it's one of those when you paint a room a different color, you see the progress and you see that change.
Yeah,
That's why I like
Once
it.
you're done and you pull back and you see the scope of it, like that giant mural we did on the side of a donut shop here in town, it's just so satisfying, especially when it kind of we did a giant postcard on the side of a building. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen it.
I saw that one.
would- yeah.
But that one
Royal.
looked. That was one of my favorite.
That was
actually.
like
That was-
not the talk of the town, but we definitely heard a lot of, oh yeah, did you see that? Did you see this? And I got picked up by this news people coming out to talk about it, and we're just like, yeah, we just went up there and stuck that sticker on that building, and basically got no credit.
Yeah, because I don't brand anything, so I don't have done by SK on it. For me, it's even my signage, dude. I'm telling you. So if I do a small 18 by 24 sign for somebody, other competitors will put
Little watermark.
their
or
little
something.
watermark on it.
Yeah.
I don't do it. Whether or not it
Word of
it's-
mouth is strong enough.
Yeah, and it's just
We get so many people through referrals and word of mouth. Almost everybody.
We handle the
Yeah.
social media for the city, the town. So we have two municipalities right next door to each other,
Chamber of Commerce.
and the Chamber of Commerce. So we definitely got the connections.
A couple
so
nonprofits.
we know some folks.
Yeah.
So you read books quite often. What is your goal? Is it a monthly goal? Is it what's your goal?
So it used to be about quantity for me, and I used to read like 36 books a year, and so I would always read 3 a month. And then I realized I wasn't retaining a whole lot because it was cool to say.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna a couple of years I read like 40, and I'm like, I'm just gonna read. Les Brown reads a book a week, and that dude's like 82 and retired, so it makes sense why he reads a book a week.
Right.
And I was like, that was when I was really hungry for like personal development and growth. Now I read like 2 books a month, and that's just by default. I don't try.
Okay.
I read every
Yeah.
day. There's not a day in the last 2 years I haven't not read at least 10 pages.
So now that you're not going for the stats and the quantity, do you still read things that are pertinent to growth and like entrepreneurship, or do you bust and read some like fiction novels, or is it mostly nonfiction? Or
Yeah, no, it's definitely a mix. I mean,
That's
I typically try to read things that are applicable to my life at that moment. You
Mm.
know what I mean? If you want to improve relationships with people, and I'm just like really, I'm really involved in my church, and I'm a leader in our church. I lead worship at our church on like a pretty intense scale, and so I'm really used to dealing with volunteers. And if I'm having issues with people, I'm like, you know what? I need to read it. I need to just refresh my mind on dealing with difficult conversations and things like that. But I throw in at least once or twice a quarter, I'll read every 3 books. Typically, I try to read like I'm reading Harry Potter.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
Goblet
So
of
you're not
Fi-
completely-
Goblet of Fi- or the Order of the Phoenix. Yeah, no, I integrate a lot of that as well.
That's good. I love
Non-
reading. I don't read a
nonfiction,
lot of nonfiction
fiction.
though. I like
Yeah.
I like dystopian novels, 1984, stuff like that, and I actually got some of the extended universe Star Wars stuff that was coming out in the early 90s and late 80s after it boomed.
Yeah.
I looked up whatever ones people like the best because I like Star Wars a lot. I'm not a super fan, but I've never read them, so I was like, might as well. But they're pretty beefy little books.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just one of the habits that like I decided. There are 3 habits that I really decided, 3.5 habits that I decided when I was your age, basically, Tony, that I was gonna just change my life. I've always been the stay up till 4 a.m. playing video games guy on Friday night and then sleep until 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. on Saturday. Like that was my whole childhood growing up. I lived for playing video games and whatever. As of April 1st, I haven't touched a video game in over a year, but I decided 3 things. I'm waking up at 5 a.m. every day, Monday through Sunday. I'm reading every day. I'm meditating every day. The half is I'm journaling every day. And I say half because that one is not perfected yet,
It's tough.
because it does take time to journal.
It's like a
but
stream of consciousness.
I have years worth of journals, and it's amazing to look back to say, when I was 21, I have journals from back when I was starting my business, the ups and the downs and the scale of those to now, worlds apart.
Oh, of
it's so
course.
funny to see the things I was writing about when I was broke, and we just lost the largest client ever, and we just moved to Scottsdale, Arizona in 2017, and the challenges we were going through, and then to be where we are now. It's just
Puts it on
it's
perspective.
really inspiring, honestly. Yeah, to realize you can make it through anything.
So,
So those are my 3.5 habits.
So for the journals, what's the end? Is it just more from your self reflection back on that, or do you plan on doing anything? Say when you're as old as I am, say when you're your late 40s, early 50s, do you plan on? Is that going to become a book, maybe?
So I don't think it's ever going to be a book, but like my vision has always been to leave a legacy that like I want my great grandkids reading about and saying like, what was our great 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 grandpa like? Here's his library,
Right.
and I read physical books. I take notes in them, and at the end of every time I read a book, I put the date I finish it, and I take the biggest 1 to 2 takeaways
That's
from the
fantastic.
time that I read it.
Yeah.
So if I read Entree Leadership by Dave Ramsey for the 3rd time, or Profit First for the 5th time by Mike Michalowicz,
Right.
every time you can see the date I finished it and then the biggest takeaways I took from that time I read it, and they're just in a row at
So
the end of the book.
do you look at the takeaways before you read it that second or third time? And at the end of
Yeah.
that book, are the takeaways always the same or is it something different?
Yeah, so I always I always look at them before I read the book to see what were my previous takeaways to refresh my memory, so I could say like, I wonder if I'm going to get that again or if I'm going to pull something
Right.
new from it.
Okay.
But yeah, so like those are the things that I journaled because I mean I have 4 or 5 huge journals filled with things that have happened, and I write in a really interesting form. I write in story format, so I write
It's like a
with quotes
narrative.
from people. I literally write it like a novel because I put myself in the shoes of the person reading it. Like if I was writing, and it was my great great grandkid, and I was reading a book, and great great grandpa was just saying like, today I did this, and it was really frustrating because blah 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 blah. I try to pick a story or an interesting thing that happened that day, and I write it as if you're literally reading a book.
Wow.
And so it's really hard to explain, but I might be like, I sat there in the 3rd floor of our Colorado suite as I was waiting, as we were traveling back with a U-Haul from Scottsdale, Arizona. 3 minutes prior to that, I had read an email that, and so I write.
Yeah.
That's how I
Wow.
write.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like a narrative instead of just your consciousness.
Yeah, because it's more intriguing, and so it's easier to write without the narrative and having to like think through that, which is why I say it's 3.5, because stream it like just, hey, here's what I was thinking and what's going on is easy, but
Right.
when you're writing narrative, you have to think a little more, so it takes more
Yeah.
time. So that's why
Yeah, you're thinking of sentence
it's harder
structure. You're
to
not just throwing up on a page. A lot of the stuff I see
Yeah.
about journaling daily, it combats Alzheimer's and dementia if you journal regularly and this and that. And they're always like, oh, don't stress about it. Just pull
Interesting.
out a pen and write for 30 seconds, write for 3 minutes, 10 minutes, do whatever you think. It doesn't matter if you read it and it doesn't make sense. But that's has a different end result in mind than what you're doing. That's more for just like people
Yeah.
who take a shot of apple cider vinegar every day because they read it was healthy on a BuzzFeed listicle.
Which I think I need to start doing
Yeah.
because my
Well,
memory is going downhill.
And you know what? It would have been so cool, Sean, to read stories about what the problems and situations that you dealt with when you had 14 Sonics.
Yeah, no, for
Think
sure.
how cool that would be. You
It
know what
would
I mean? Like
be.
your
Well, you have
kids
a
being
pretty-
able to read.
Yeah.
Not necessarily I think you have all your emails though still.
So here, funny thing. So before, obviously, when I started, we had no email. I have a 3-ring binder of fax messages that me and my boss at the time had been going back and forth, and just the hostility that was there. It wasn't probably the best work environment, and it was very rough in the sense that. So it wasn't. I couldn't.
Nepotism?
I could take a lot of nepotism, but taking a vacation, if there was an issue at the drive-in or one of the stores, I had to come back. There was no guaranteed time off. At the time, I was into the import scene pretty heavily to where my car was sponsored, and I would go to Atlantic City, Atlanta, Miami, and take my car because I had sponsors and I had obligations to go with those. And I would get a lot of grief from the owners in regards to me leaving. If you cleaned your store as much as you cleaned this car.
Oh yeah, like you can't have a personal life. Your life has to be nothing but work, and then you
Yikes.
die.
Yeah. Oh, it was rough. And I'm telling you, it was even up to the last of the 14 years. There was a lot of redheaded stepchild mentality to where I was the overachiever. Just imagine a relationship when the one is overachieving or wants to be more needy, and you get treated worse because you're that. They know you're going to do whatever, and that was me. Just because I had to prove
Yeah.
myself each time, so it was very frustrating. And I knew my capability and what I could do from a solo standpoint. So that's when we started SK. So I left Sonic making decent money, not right at 3 figures yet, but went down to $1,400 a month making So I left that, went down to there, worked with my buddy at a sign shop, built SK, bought the sign shop, and then kind of that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
oh my, Europe is amazing.
It is.
I mean, I've only been to
Wouldn't know.
Germany, and then when we were out there, yeah, man, Tony, you just so young.
I
The
know.
whole world is just yours
We're
for the
planning
taking.
a trip. Me, him, my girlfriend, and his wife, my aunt, to what? England, France.
Yeah, probably
Germany,
something. So I lived in Germany from
2022.
'85 to '89, right when the Berlin
Really?
Wall fell and when Chernobyl happened. My stepdad was military, so I lived over in Nuremberg, and I went
Wow.
back in '06 for the World Cup, and my buddy and I, just two dudes, flew to Frankfurt, rented a car, went from Frankfurt to Nuremberg to Berlin, Amsterdam, and then down to Paris, and then back to Frankfurt. So
Wow.
I took my wife to Italy in 2010, but Tony's never been. So
Not to flex, they sent me a shirt when I was 11
Man.
years old. And I brought it to school. It said
That's
Rome on it. I
nice.
brought it to school and told everybody, "Oh, the shirt came. They sent it from Italy," and they were just like, "Nope, you're lying. You're lying for clout. You lying liar." And I was just like, "Ah."
So I think we're gonna plan a family trip to go
Big
over
flex.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Call me Mr. Cool Guy over here with my polyester shirt from across the sea.
there. So what I liked,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously at the time, for me in Europe, I was 7th through 10th grade. So my love for architecture and history was non-existent. I was just worried about my Archie comic book and whatever, you know what I mean?
Skateboarding.
Yeah, skateboarding. You know, just those. That was my life at the time. Not getting picked on at school. But now going back as as an adult, I'm excited to see it through Tony's eyes or somebody else has never been there.
Yeah, which I am invested
Yeah.
in the history and the architecture, so I'm really, really excited to go. I've never left the continental United States. I've hit quite a handful of the continental United States, especially relative to somebody my age, but never
Yeah.
jumped the pond, never went over the ocean.
So you would go ahead.
I was gonna say it's pretty amazing. So I went to Germany. I went to Dusseldorf actually when I was in 7th grade, and I went over there. And I wasn't into history or anything. I was just like, I had the opportunity to go over there with our church around Christmas time. I'm like, cool, let's just go over there to Dusseldorf. And I will say, Germans were really rude and they're like really mean. They like hated us. Everyone I met was just mean to us.
Yeah.
But doesn't I'm not gonna lump all German. One of my business partners is from Frankfurt actually,
Right.
and he's or Hamburg. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't appreciate it. But then, yeah, a year and a half ago, we decided to go back for 2 weeks, and we went to like Montenegro and Croatia, and we stayed in Rome, right outside the
Yes.
Vatican,
Yep.
and we got to experience some amazing things. In Croatia, we went to King's Landing, which was a really cool experience to like walk the actual walls that they filmed in Game of Thrones and
Right.
see all the shots and where they did it. I was like, it looked like a painting in front of me.
It's ridiculous.
The red roof city, and it was just amazing.
When we think of
Um,
history here, I mean, it only goes back, a couple hundred years.
Yeah,
And once you
Yeah.
step foot over there, and the Vatican itself is
thousands
fantastic.
of years.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one of the interesting. When I was in Montenegro, they have places there in Kotor where there was like the Battle of Kotor and all this history. And we rented a whole boat, and a group of us were like going all around the bay, and we were stopping all these old places. And I took a photo of this piece of art there. That's just like, or it was just a statue there that no one thinks twice about, and it's just this gorgeous like rusted green statue, and it said 1124 AD. And I was like, like to them it's no big deal.
They're just like, yeah,
but
it's
to
that
us it's
statue.
like
It's
that's
huge.
900 years old. Like this is almost 5 times older than the entire United States.
it's
like
insane.
it's just
yeah.
it's
And
amazing.
Then you talk about aqueducts and just modern stuff that it
Oh,
took
like Rome
forever
had
to
fast food
us.
restaurants. Fast food, not the way we know it, obviously. But you go in, get a bowl of soup, and just be like, "Hi ho, here's a couple gold pieces. Bye."
Yeah.
Like that's pretty advanced stuff for thousands of years old history.
Yeah.
You briefly touched on gaming. What was your gaming? Tony's an avid gamer, and I used to
Yeah.
game.
Not as much as obviously in high school. I still try to get on. It's hard for bigger story-based things because you don't have like 80 hours to dunk into something. So I leave a lot of stuff unfinished, unfortunately.
So what was your game of choice?
So I loved video games growing up. It was all I ever wanted to do. It was all I ever thought about. You'd be at school and you'd want to get off so you can come home and I could play RuneScape, old school. Or I wanted to be Friday night so my cousins and friends could all go over and have a guys' night and play Halo till 6 a.m. in the morning. All the Halos from Halo 1 to Halo 4 and
Right.
all those things. And then as I got older, I started. I've started a lot of ventures and I've failed a lot of ventures. And one of them it was brilliant. It's called Lounge and Game. And I was going to build basically I do CrossFit every
Yep.
day. And CrossFit is really intense, but there are people that would never step foot in a CrossFit, but want community. And gamers, yeah, they're online, they commute with people. So I'm like, what if I built the CrossFit for gamers? What if I built a place that had all the specs, all the 1 millisecond response monitors, all of that? And there are a couple game lounges that are high end like that do tournaments. And then you could pay a monthly subscription to have access to all of this and have like a cafe in there and everything. And so one of the reasons I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona in 2017 in Phoenix was to open that actually.
That's actually a really good idea.
Partner with someone. We did the marketing. We started growing our email list by the hundreds a week. And like it was really amazing. And we're going to open it. It was a bad fit on the partner. So I sold my portion and backed out of it. But because I decided this venture would be a good idea, I got into gaming. I didn't play games for years. And then I got in it. I started playing League of Legends.
Oh, yeah. I've never played League of Legends, but my best friend is super, super into it. He plays it every single day. And all I know is it's a MOBA, and it's similar to Smite. Other than that, nothing.
Yeah. So to me, it really doesn't matter what game it is. You have World of Warcraft, MOBAs, you have, whatever it is, right? All the first-person shooters and all, just anything that's like multiplayer online. Any of that stuff is hyper addicting.
Yes.
But the thing is, you can justify it in any way. And so for me, I'm like, well, I'm going to be watching Netflix anyway. Well, it's the weekend and I'm not doing anything anyway. Well, I have a business and I'm starting. So that was how I justified it at first. Like, I need to get in. I need to understand the terminology, all the words like wrecked and all these. Like, people don't say noobs anymore.
They don't say noobs. They don't say pwned.
They don't say pwned. They don't say all these RuneScape terms that I knew when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to familiarize myself with the culture. And so I got into it, and I'm the naysayer on video games. I don't believe that video games, nothing against playing them, I don't believe that they are for a lot of people. I think that they are they're an actual vice that kind of grip people and they ruin their lives.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I'm not going to blanket everybody, because I could also say like people can drink a beer and be fine with it, but people that I know that have alcoholic problems, if they touch a beer, they're toast.
Yep.
And same thing with video games. Once you're addicted to it, it becomes very dangerous. You ruin your relationships. You genuinely do.
Yep.
And when you're a kid, it's fine because you don't have a spouse, you don't have kids, you don't have other obligations.
Businesses
but what happens is
career.
you start to neglect them. Where I live right now, I can hear my neighbor every night, full grown man, 10 years older than me, screaming, laughing, yelling to his buddies and he's married, completely neglects his wife. And he's playing video games till 11:30 p.m. every single night. And I can hear him. And if it's the weekend, he'll be up till 3 a.m. playing video games. That's his life. He goes to work, he comes home, plays video games. So April 1st of last year, of 2020, I cold turkey stopped doing it after I was averaging 15 to 20 hours a week doing it. And I could justify it every way you could think.
Of course.
I could say,
you can justify
it's my lunch break.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's my whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you get to the root of it, you're not doing anything with your life when you're doing that. You can do anything. So you neglect your health, you neglect your relationship, you neglect your spiritual life, your education, like your reading. Like people say, oh, I don't have time to read. I'm like, do you play video games? And like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, well, you have time to read.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a constant, for you getting older, that's just one of that mature levels that you reach. Because as a gamer, and I did that. I played FIFA. I'm a soccer fanatic.
Nice.
Forever. And it got so much that I played every night that I got invited to a guy's wedding in Ireland in 2009. Wow. I went to that wedding by myself. I was there for 6 days, met those two guys there in Dundalk, Ireland, went to the wedding, took a hop over to Manchester with one of the guys I played FIFA with, stayed with him and his wife, and then came back. But I completely understand where you're coming from, because once you get that, it's very. I have an addictive personality anyway.
Absolutely addictive, because it works the same way as, especially now compared to how they used to design games, where they design them to purposefully release like just enough dopamine and then make you feel like garbage for a few hours and then give you another little hit. They design them to be addictive.
It's like a slot machine.
Yeah, it is like a slot machine. And when you look at the fact that there are teenagers who have died after like 37 consecutive hours of playing video games and stuff, it's definitely, I think people don't like to hear it because they think I play games and now this person's talking trash about me, but it's like anything. You could get addicted to food, you can get addicted to video games, you can get addicted to television, drugs and alcohol, obviously, work for one.
I'm addicted.
I 100% agree with you. And if anyone yeah, well, and it is. It's all about balance in life and moderation.
Hey.
But like, I think that's the thing. Like, so if anyone's listening to this from like they play.
Give me just 1 second. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think we
capped our screen recording.
Yeah, let's try this again.
Is it storage? Shouldn't be. Nah, you just freed up 20 gigs. There's no way.
3, 2. Nope.
I took a screenshot. Do you remember your train of thought?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
I'll
good.
pick right up.
Cling on to it. Delete over the left.
You guys have any big projects this weekend?
We've been working on a video for the Chamber of Commerce here. That's, what's it called again? The Bright Spots.
Bright Spots.
So it's basically trying to, the ultimate spin on making 2020 seem like it was a net positive for the business community. But since a lot of the business community here is tourism and travel based, it's been kind of tough for some of these people to sit down and try to put a spin on taking like a 70% hit to their bottom line. It's definitely been interesting to see what people come up with, though.
Oof. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, but I think we're wrapping that up after this week.
Cool.
Pretty sure.
That's
And then
awesome.
actually, tomorrow we're doing an episode. We're recording an episode of the podcast with an actor from an ABC sitcom.
Oh, that's awesome.
Have you ever heard of The Middle?
Mm-mm.
No one's ever heard of it. It had 9 seasons on ABC, and no one's ever heard of it.
Really?
Yeah, but one of the guys. So it's a family dynamic sitcom. So the kid that plays, I think, like the youngest son, who's exactly my age now, is coming on. Ironically enough,
Oh, cool.
video game streamer. That's what he retired from acting and wants to be a full-time streamer.
Oh man.
Yeah, which
That's
if you turn it into a career, that's one thing, I suppose. There are people that lose their love for gaming because they make it their career and then it becomes a job, which is hilarious.
That's my ex-business partner with Lag tried to do. Wanted to be a gamer.
Yeah,
big old
make money from gaming.
He ended up running it into the ground, and he got on a team making $1,500 a month, and it was the biggest thing ever. And then he lost that because he just, you got to keep up. And
yeah, it's
It's
funny
a
you mentioned
brutal world.
RuneScape. I haven't played very much. Like a month ago, they have a old school RuneScape on the phone, and I downloaded it, and I've played a couple hours over the last few weeks. And it's
That's
so
awesome.
it seems like it was made for a touchscreen smart device as opposed, because you think about how it doesn't take very much to run it. An iPhone is way stronger than anything we use to run it, especially in like 2008 and 9.
So yesterday I found some memes. Some of my friends sent me, and I sent them to my brothers. There's a meme that went around and it said, get somebody angry in say something that would enrage me in 5 seconds or less. And someone comments, 92 is only half of 99. So brilliant.
I played a little bit of RuneScape back in 2010, 11. Very, very little. Like, I'm talking a couple weeks I was kind of getting on, and then it just fizzled out. But I definitely see where a lot of people fell in love with it, because it's almost like free-to-play World of Warcraft.
Yeah. No, it was a ton of fun, man. I played it a little before then, 2008, 2000 to 2011 maybe, and that was probably it.
Yeah,
But,
people get big into it. I mean, there are people running around where they've just been playing for a decade nonstop, like 2 hours a day. I'm just like, holy cow! How do you still have fun? Like,
yeah, it's just that addiction, man.
yeah.
All right, we're ready. Sorry, I'm an amateur apparently.
Dude, you're good.
Okay, so go ahead and pick up wherever you were if you remember that.
I was gonna say, so like Tony, you're 100% right. I think that anyone who's listening that's a gamer might like people. Every time I give the spiel to my gamer friends and colleagues and people that I know that are well known in our community and they're like business people and super successful, they play a lot of video games, but I can look from the outside, not even on the inside, and I can see how detrimental that is to their relationships with their kids and their spouse, and how they shut themselves or close themselves away for hours at a time. And like, I can see that. And so even if you're listening, I would say the main thing is that it doesn't apply to everyone. Like, some people are okay with it. I would just say, if you're happy with your life, if you think your relationships are great, if you think that you're where you want to be and everything, sure, go for it. But if you're complaining about those things or you're experiencing issues in those areas, you should reflect and be like, hey, is gaming ruining some of my relationships here?
Yeah, if you're
And
absolutely
I
miserable
realized
day
it.
to day and you play games for like 30 hours a week,
Yeah,
what
you
other
don't realize
activity?
it. you play a game and then you lose the match. And then what happens is you're like, oh, I have to play again. I want to end on a high note. I want to win this round. You play again, then you win. Then guess what happens? You're like, oh, I just won.
Keep the
Easy
streak
peasy.
going.
I'm going to play another game. I could easily win. I'm on a high note. And it's just this vicious cycle of unproductive stuff.
Some people are just angry the whole time they play. Like, even when they do good, you know, they kill somebody and they hop in the game chat and they're just like, you're trash, you're garbage. And I'm just like, you're in a state of hypertension every minute of every day because of how worked up you get over these. It's the definition of sweating the small stuff when you're dunking on somebody who's probably like 8 years old in another country, and then you hop in game chat to tell them to like end their life because you just think you're so much better at 6v6 Call of Duty.
I haven't played in a while, and I finally downloaded Steam again on my Mac, because when I used to play Counter-Strike, it was only a Windows-based. And then, so I got Steam, downloaded. I was talking to my son. My son's 25, lives in Austin. So I was playing that, and I jumped on. I was telling my wife the other day, I said, I figured I'd get in here, and there would be some mature folks in this chat. And no, lo and behold, it was still
Slurs.
the vulgar, the slurs. It was ridiculous. So I'm like, just let me get through here and get my KDR.
It's a toxic world.
It is.
It is a toxic world. And I would end with this: is like when I stopped playing video games, the first week or two was hard. It was really hard. And prior to that, and then I looked back at my hours, and in the previous 3 years, I had logged over 3,000 combined hours playing video games.
Wow.
It's a lot of freaking time. You don't realize it. But even outside of that, like once I stopped, and then I became immediately the most productive I've ever been.
Yep.
And I have like the most clarity on my life and everything that I do than ever before.
Yeah, because your
I'm
mind's
closer
not
to my wife, and friends, and everything.
Yeah, and that could go for anything internet based. If you're caught up on TikTok, if you're caught up on social media. So what I think about now at my age is all the time that I wasted as a youth doing things that didn't progress me to a better future, a better me 10 years from then or whatever. Everything that I do, everything is self-taught. So leading out of Sonic in 2014, 3 or 4 years prior, I knew I was going to get out. I didn't know when. I knew it was going to happen soon. So I downloaded Adobe Illustrator. I jumped on 99designs.com. I started designing phone app icons, and whatever somebody needed one, I would mess with that, and if I'd win it or whatever. But it allowed me to do that all while I was going on an online school for web design for a college design. So still working my 60 hours a week at Sonic, and then still trying to get myself to be better for a future me. So I think that comes with age and depending on the drive of the person.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears. And let's talk movies. Short conversation. What kind of movies do you and Kelsey sit at home and watch?
We love comedies, but there are a few that we just watch over and over and over again, which are typically TV shows. So we're really boring. Like for me to sit down on a Friday, sure, we'll watch maybe an hour and a half movie. Tonight we'll probably do a movie night or something. But we just don't have a lot of time. Honestly, we have our building project. We own a vacation cabin in Gatlinburg, which takes up a ton of time. We're involved in our community. And so we don't have a lot of time. So that's why we always do like 20-minute episodes. We're like hardcore. Like I've seen The Office like 9 times through. I could quote everything front and back to you. And our office could. We're the Office, like our office loves The Office. Gotcha. And so so we're Office, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, 20-minute comedy,
love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Style people.
Underrated show. Not enough people always watch The Office and Parks and Rec, and they for some reason leave Brooklyn Nine-Nine out of the NBC workplace comedy like trifecta. But it's such a phenomenal.
Even Arrested Development.
Yes. I've actually only seen a couple episodes of Arrested Development, but my girlfriend's favorite show of all time is Parks and Rec, and I showed her The Office before I showed her Parks and Rec. So it was like pulling teeth trying to get her to watch Parks and Rec because in her mind it was like a rip off of The Office. But after 2 or 3 seasons,
it is exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. And after like 2 or 3 seasons, she was like, "Holy cow, this is amazing!" Because it's kind of like The Office, but without the awkwardness. It's less social awkwardness based humor.
We watch those are like our core. We cycle between them. We love them. But I would say the greatest TV show of all time, in my opinion, is Lost. I know it's like 2005, 2004 when they first dropped that. I've seen Lost like 6 times over. I saw it several times. I watched it with my wife. I made us both watch it with her parents. I made us watch it again. Like I love Lost.
Let's not spoil anything, but
personally,
you thought the ending was satisfying?
I don't think the ending was super satisfying.
But the build up.
But overall, the journey was amazing. Like it was just, I don't know. I thought Lost was cinematically wonderful.
I think the first season is one of the
and
best seasons of television ever made, easily, even if you don't like the rest of the series, because to be fair, it goes kind of bonkers. Goes really bonkers.
Yeah,
actually.
it does.
Yeah, this
Oh,
guy.
are you serious? Like, Sean, it's amazing. Until you start to get into the later season or so,
Right.
it gets a little worse. But I would say that
First
if
three
you
at
go
least.
back and watch it now, Tony, since you've last watched it, you
Mhm.
might realize the acting is not as on par as maybe it was when you first watched it, because that was my
It's
experience.
like a little more cheesy than you remember it being.
A year ago, I went back to watch it, and I'm just like,
I watched
"Oh,
the first
Jack."
episode a couple months ago because it's pretty long and it's almost like a self-contained movie, that first episode. And I showed it to my girlfriend to kind of try to pitch it to her, and she didn't seem super interested. But just
it's
seeing
pretty good.
seeing all the stuff at the beginning when you know where everything is gonna go, it's pretty hilarious. And all the flashbacks you haven't seen yet. The show's nothing but flashbacks, to be fair.
Really?
Like 90% of the character development's flashback form.
Gotcha.
But it's a great show.
So
It's definitely worthwhile.
I'll have to look into. I mean, again, time invested. I don't. It's for me. It's a lot of background noise. So I'll get off, and we host a lot of Zooms for the city and for HOAs in town, which is a weird thing to say, but we're now the Zoom guys. So
Yep.
we charge an hourly rate to host your Zoom, and HOAs
Interesting.
give us that, and it's it's not lucrative. I'm not going to retire off of it.
Yeah.
But it's another revenue source to come in.
We don't have a super technologically
The community is not very technologically advanced.
technologically literate community, so it's definitely a niche that doesn't exist in very many places, I would say, anywhere in the world, or at least the developed world. But we fill it perfectly here because people's vision of us is like
We're tech guys.
like we have brains this big and we could just hop in the back end and go blah, 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 and like code.
Pinky in the brain. I'm Pinky in that scenario.
Yeah.
So we'll go to bed every night watching The Middle. So if you guys are into TV shows, so it's a scripted, obviously television sitcom, no laugh track, so you don't have that cheeky
Thank
laughing.
goodness.
Yeah,
And,
no awkward
That's
pauses.
the worst.
Yeah, like
for
half
me.
the show is
I'm not a
downtime.
fan.
Patricia Heaton's in it, which is she's from she was the mom on with Everybody Loves Raymond. And then Neil Flynn, which was the janitor on Scrubs, and then 3 other co-actors
Playing the kids.
And so there's a lot of it's hilarious. And then we'll go to watching Friends is another one that we watch.
Yeah, that's my
all the time.
aunt's favorite show easily, right? Ever.
What
Friends.
I would say, not to knock anyone who loves those kind of shows, but I have a principle, and my wife disagrees, and she loves them. If there's a laugh track, I don't watch it.
I don't like laugh
It's not a show
tracks.
that I'll watch. If there's
Yeah.
a laugh track, I don't watch the show. Like Friends,
Looking at you, Big Bang
I've never
Theory.
seen more than 5 to 10 episodes.
Well, and I think Friends was more of a studio audience, but still the same effect because you get the applause button that pops
pause.
up or whatever.
They're pausing for laughter, literally. Well, that's not how you skin a potato. And then they just like look at the camera and
Yeah.
a bunch of people laugh, and you're just like, ah.
So
Which we have 5 minutes over here.
we have 5 minutes on that. Okay, so we'll wrap up within the next 5.
Cool.
Favorite movie? Do you have? I mean, a favorite genre movie? Horror, comedy. I know
no,
comedy TV.
No, I mean honestly, not really.
Okay.
Super into
I do
movies.
love Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And The Hobbit and Harry Potter, like some of those like classic ones.
Yeah.
I think those are wonderful. I also really like The Walking Dead.
I love the first 5 seasons of The Walking Dead. I thought were phenomenal.
Never seen.
I just love, man. So like I've watched it since the beginning. I've never rewatched it, and I wouldn't rewatch it, only because I'm invested. But I would never go back and spend that much time again. But it's amazing because I love seeing I love the human psychology of what would you do? I think that's the biggest question it begs. It's what would you do in this situation?
Yeah.
At the beginning, it's all about the walkers and the zombies and the dead. That's cool. But then by season
Becomes
2, it's getting
human
into the
show
people.
with zombies in the background.
It becomes human, and in the last year it's really made me reflect and think oh man, I got my concealed carry and everything, and I have all that,
Right.
but I see all the behavior in 2020, and I'm like, man, people really will beat the crap out of each other for toilet paper.
Yep.
And it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
interesting to see
That kind of feeds
what the
exactly
human mind
into
will
The
do.
Walking Dead.
Yeah,
You can see
it's
the
scary.
dynamics in that show. When you first watch it, you're like, man, it's so far fetched. Why wouldn't everyone just band together? They would easily survive. And then it's like, nah.
We're not that.
Yeah,
Nah,
we're not
we
that
gotta hate
smart.
other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's just the human
Um,
thing.
So, do you like Travis Barker from a percussion standpoint?
You talking the drummer?
Drummer,
from
yeah,
Blink-182?
Blink 182, yeah.
Nah. I think that if I was an overrated, underrated, I would give that an
Overrated, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's
in my
more
opinion. Absolutely.
appearance-wise. So, what kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to so I love a lot of things. I listen to literally everything from hardcore to jazz
Yep.
to whatever. One caveat is country. Unfortunately, that's my wife's favorite, but
Classic.
it's my least favorite.
Same.
Nothing against. I love Taylor Swift.
Okay.
I love Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
but that's the exception. And I love jazz. I think I love jazz and I love Broadway musicals.
Oh, nice.
So I love like Hamilton. I could sing that song back and forth.
Wow.
Like all the Broadway stuff I love, and then jazz. I think just jazz is so soothing to me. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin,
Yeah.
Ella Fitzgerald.
I would love to have a club, kind of like a low key club. I always
Like a
wanted,
speakeasy.
yeah, like a speakeasy. Name it the Regal Beagle, kind of what was on Three's Company, and they just
There you go.
have some, low, dimly lit candles on the table, one bar, and just kind of some jazz music, or every now and again have a singer come in.
Someone's playing the sax in the corner.
Have what's his name, Ron from Parks and Rec. Have you
Duke Silver.
Duke Silver would be
Duke
on,
Silver.
yeah. Have you ever listened to the Teskey Brothers? Teskey. So it's an Australian
no.
band, and they play blues. So I will shoot you over on Instagram their latest album, and I highly recommend it. Very soulful and
Very, very soulful.
and for them to be
30-something-year-old Australian, regular just Australian
it's
dude.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So before we start wrapping up, what do you got, Tony?
I was going to say, if you want to ask him if he has anything he wants to push,
Yeah. So let's first. What's our time?
we have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yikes. So go ahead and push anything that you want to push. If it's Coffee Space, if it's Flight Media, whatever it is.
I don't have anything necessarily that I want to push. I would just say, I don't know if you guys have entrepreneurs listening or business owners or who your audience honestly really is. But all I would say that if you're a business owner, and I was to give you one piece of advice, you're a starting entrepreneur, is to just go slow. Like, it's okay to take your time. And I was having a conversation earlier in our co-working space across the street with an entrepreneur, and she's like growing really fast, and she wants to like start scaling and hiring people and doing all this stuff. And I'm just like, slow down. It's okay. Be profitable and slow your speed a little bit. Like, Tony, you're 21 years old, dude. Like, it's okay. You don't have to be where any of us are at.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, luckily you have a good mentor right there that can lead you down that path. But like, people just need to be grateful for where they're at, and they need to.
Seems like I mentor him sometimes. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and you just need to be. You need to take it slow and be okay with that. And if you could do that, you will live a happy life. Nothing else to push.
Yeah, no, that's perfect news. Perfect way to end the show, and that's a great soundbite for us to do to promote the show.
yeah.
Actually, so big thanks to Josh Coffey and Flight Media and Coffee Space, and we hope you guys had a listen, and definitely follow them on Instagram. And yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks.